On this episode of Locked On Angels, we discover that the band Chicago was right. You're a hard habit to break. I think they were singing about the Angels because as much as they break our hearts, we just keep coming back. It was a really difficult weekend, and we're going to recap all the details and talk about what's next with the Halos. It's time to get locked on with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day, just like Colby Ammons does every single day. We're glad that you're here. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SiriusXM by searching Locked On Angels. And if you'd like to get back to the Super Halo Bros for all the Super Halo content, here's some things that you can do. Leave us a rate and a review on Apple Podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. And if you're not subscribed already, please subscribe and become a Locked On everydayer. And whether you're watching or listening, come over to YouTube and leave a comment. It's one of the best ways to get in touch with us and be a part of the conversation. And today's show is brought to you by Game Time. You can download that Game Time app. You can create an account and use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase.
Happy Memorial Day to you, and thank you for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch Brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Mike, it's our third season here at Locked On Angels. We're happy to be the hosts of Locked On Angels, and we're here every Monday through Friday. We hope you're enjoying what is hopefully a long weekend for you. We know not everybody gets the day off on Monday, but hey, we hope that you were able to take some time to remember those who have served us and put them in your thoughts and got to spend some time with whoever you call family this weekend. Hey, on today's show, we're recapping the Guardian series, Mike, and the short story is they got swept. The Angels got swept, and there were a lot of, well, how should I put this? Like intricacies to each loss this weekend.
Yeah.
And so I think it'd be a good idea for us to just explain what happened. There was old habits, of course, like you mentioned at the top of the show, and those are certainly hard for the Angels to break. So why don't you take us into Friday night's game as the Angels lost to the Guardians 10-4.
Yeah, this was the only blowout game. All the other games, the two other games, were close games and winnable games for the Angels. But this game was just the return of what we were afraid of, an inconsistent and ineffective Patrick Sandoval. Over his previous 5 outings, Johnny, 3.03 ERA, and he had walked just 6 batters in 29 2/3 innings pitched, which was great. In fact, the last 2 games, he didn't walk anybody. And then Friday happened, and he went 3 2/3 innings pitched, gave up 8 runs, 3 home runs, John, and 4 walks. And you know, anytime that Sandoval walks anybody, it always comes back to bite him. He seems to be the most unlucky pitcher when it comes to defense and when it comes to walks, right?
Yeah, Wash said that Sandy got too much of the strike zone and he just couldn't get the ball where he wanted to get it. But Wash felt that at some point, especially after the 3rd inning, I thought he would straighten out. It just didn't happen. Mike, I was happy to see Ron Washington say, I left him in too long.
Yeah.
And taking some responsibility, I think, especially 2 weeks after the whole incident about the bunt and the squeeze and Guillorme not getting and making contact on there, and Ron not taking responsibility for that decision, because we all, at least here, felt that it was not the time for that decision. So I guess it was refreshing to see some responsibility taken there. One note, Sandoval threw very few fastballs in this one, and he relied on the slider and the changeup, but he gave up 2 of those homers on the slider. He also threw 12 sweepers, which is a pitch he's only thrown 15 times all season. I really think the success, Mike, lies in that sinker that he throws. He's ditched the fastball, but the sinker obviously is a version. It's not a four-seam fastball. It's a different kind of fastball. And I think that's why he's had the success that he's had, because he gets guys to ground out. He uses his defense more. He's getting, soft flyouts and things like that. And so it's unfortunate that there was this turn of events for Sandoval on Friday. I know I made you Reed responsible for Reed Detmers. I'm holding you personally responsible.
Reed responsible. I like that.
Yeah. So I guess I got to take responsibility for Patrick Sandoval in this one.
Okay, so let me ask you a question then. I know that as a fan, we have the opportunity to go, send that guy down and bring somebody else up. But obviously the Angels have stuck with some guys, good or bad, right or wrong, they've stuck with some guys.
Mhm.
When I was at the game on Saturday, they did a recap of Friday, and then they talked about some of the minor league stuff, and Kenny Rosenberg's stats were put up on the big board.
Mhm.
And the buddy that I was with, Ben, who's an everydayer, he said, there's some nice stats.
Yeah.
Wonder what it'd be like to have him at the major league level, right?
No kidding.
And so my question to you is, do you take somebody like Sandoval, and we're going to talk about Reed Detmers too, and do you send them down and bring somebody else up and let them work on some stuff? Or is it more beneficial for them to stay at the major league level and continue to figure it out?
Yeah, this is the kind of year where you can figure it out because we have come into this with no expectations. I think the Angels are right where we thought they would be. And I think this is a year for those guys to figure it out at the major league level because you've been a major leaguer for a long time now.
Right. Yeah.
The only exception I would make is it just seems like, and we'll talk about Reed, it just seems like there's something fundamentally wrong with Reed Detmers. I heard a lot about his release point during the broadcast on Sunday, and it just doesn't seem like they can nail it down. So part of me wonders if a second set of eyes would be helpful for Reed Detmers. And don't get me wrong, like I love the depth that we have in terms of Davis Daniel and Kenny Rosenberg, and I'm happy to see them succeed. But I just think at this point, stick with these guys because if you're hoping that they were going to be lights out this year, I think that was the hope is, can you get back to 2022 Sandoval? Can Detmers get back to what he does well? And they've shown flashes of it. Mike, I feel like that's been the whole story of these guys. They've shown flashes. They've been good. And then they just have a game like this.
Yeah, stop flashing. We don't like that. And then when it comes to the offense for the Angels, John, they got on the board first. They got a home run from Rengifo in that first inning, and that was a great start and kind of exciting when you saw that happen. Hey, they got a first inning run, and they give Sandoval the lead, but then everything kind of fell apart for him. Now, Joe Adell had a home run in this game in the 6th inning, his 10th, and Logan O'Hoppe hit his 5th home run in the 8th inning, but it was classic Angels when they get down. They have a couple of moments where they kind of try to climb back, but don't make it all the way back, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then something that's going to be a theme throughout this entire show is base running mistakes.
Yes.
The over-aggressiveness of the Angels, and that's really what it is. The over-aggressiveness of the Angels really hurt them this weekend. In this game, there was one by Rengifo, and then there was one by Taylor Ward. And Rengifo is somebody that has the speed to maybe be a bit more over-aggressive. But Taylor Ward, he's on a scale of 1 to 10, he's like a 4.3, right?
Yeah.
Like he can't be, you know what he is? Remember the old baseball games like Nintendo, Super Nintendo?
Yes.
And you just press like the buttons on the top to move the runner to the next bag. And maybe you accidentally hit the runner to go to the next bag. And then you try to get him to go back. But by the time you're going back, they've thrown it from the center fielder or from the outfield, and they've gotten you at second base because your runner is just so slow. Taylor Ward looks like he's kind of stuck in this molasses as he's running in the field and as he's running on base. And so any aggressiveness that he has, I think needs to be tempered because he just doesn't have the speed to be successful.
No, he's 44th percentile in all of Major League Baseball in terms of sprint speed. So he doesn't really have any business trying to be aggressive on the base paths. And that's another factor, Mike, in terms of what kind of season this is. And there is, we saw it last year. The Angels were so afraid to run.
Yeah.
And so it's been refreshing to see them stealing bases and trying to take the extra base and things like that. And it's a learning curve because right now they're just way too over aggressive and it's costing them runs. They're running themselves out on the bases, I should say. And again, it's a complete 180 from where they were last year.
Yeah, right.
I appreciate the effort, but it's kind of like James Russell Barton's question on Friday was about Ron Washington and guys who are bunting and, in certain situations. And I think it needs to be applied to guys who can bunt successfully. And we saw the results there. Like Logan O'Hoppe has one, Zach Neto, Nolan Shawnuel. Those guys have successful bunts. Don't make Matt Theis bunt, right?
Yeah.
And I think the same rules apply to this aggressive base running. I trust Neto. I trust Adell. Well, sort of. He's got the speed to be aggressive. I trust Rengifo. I don't trust Taylor Ward with aggressive base running. I appreciate it, but there are certain guys that you call upon to be aggressive, and Taylor Ward is not one of those guys.
I do want to talk about the bunt later on in the show because just practically, mechanically, they're just bunting wrong. And so we got to talk about that. But talk about base running for a moment, Johnny. This is what's really difficult from a coaching perspective, from I'm sure Wash's perspective, and also EY, who's, rolling those guys around the bases, and Bo Porter trying to get them to be aggressive, is now you've got them so wound up where they're doing everything aggressively, right? And so it's hard to pull back. But I know from a leadership standpoint, it's easier to pull back than it is to get you going, right? And so I wonder if they're just going to continue to tell these guys to just be aware, but continue to try to get that extra bag, continue to try to move forward. The thing that I really felt this weekend, especially with the way that Rengifo has been playing and the way that we've seen like Ohapi and Neto playing, is these guys are great pieces for a team. You know what this team misses? They miss that key contributor, or those two key contributors, like a Mike Trout and a Shohei Ohtani, right? Like, or
I noticed your shirt today, by the way.
Yes. Is it still okay to wear a Shono shirt, right?
Oh, I got it for you for Christmas, so you can wear it anytime.
Awesome. See, Shohei was a guy who used to be on the Angels, John. He was really good. Played for
I remember him.
Yeah, they didn't get to the playoffs with him, Pujols, Trout, Rendon. I was really surprised that they couldn't do that.
Strange.
But back to the original point, I think that they're in this position right now because they've told these guys, hey, go get it. But what they need is somebody to help lead the way on the field that's going to come through in those moments where they haven't been able to come through, or is going to take that extra bag or take the extra base and be successful at it because they have the experience, they have the veteran wisdom. And Mike Trout is that guy, at least on the base path. He's that guy that when he goes to take that extra base, he's getting in more often than not.
Well, we'll see what happens when he comes back from the knee injury, the torn meniscus. I know they did the short-term solution, and so we'll see how aggressive he continues to be on the bases. And if that sprint speed stays up where it's been, that's something that I'm really keeping an eye on when Trout comes back. Hey, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen every single day. The Angels are playing the Yankees on Tuesday, 6:38 Pacific time. That's right, everybody. One first-place team to another at the Big A. Kind of goes back to what you said the other day, Mike, about why do the Angels suck at home? Well, they've been playing all these first place teams every single time.
Yeah.
And that's just, they can't compete. I know they had close games on Saturday and Sunday, but they can't keep up, especially with the way the roster looks right now. Griffin Canning's going to be on the mound again Tuesday, 6:38 Pacific time. The Angels are off tonight. You can catch every pitch of the Angels hometown broadcast on SiriusXM on the SXM app. All you have to do is search Angels. Coming up on Locked On Angels, Washington said that he liked the way the Halos played this weekend. Do we? Well, we're going to share our thoughts on that coming right up.
Johnny, I mentioned on Saturday that we went to the game, and so we went with some friends, and some other friends were there. So we dropped off our boy at prom. We were going to be his driver for prom and then driving him home because we love him and we don't want him to be, out there where it's unsafe. And there were other families that we were connected with that did the same thing. So I was hanging out with one particular group of people, and this was before the game. And the other group of people said, hey, we think we're sitting next to you. And I said, well, here's the section that I'm in. And they're like, oh, yeah, we're there. And then when they got there, they were on the completely opposite side.
Uh-oh.
and here's why. Because they didn't use Game Time.
That's right.
Because Game Time shows you where your seats are going to be. They use some other ticketing app, and it doesn't show you that at all. Plus, they paid all sorts of fees and things. And I was like, fellas, you have a friend who works for Locked On Angels, and we're partnering with Game Time. Next time, use Game Time like we did, because they're obsessed with finding ways to help you save money. With Game Time, you can get last-minute ticket deals and save up to 60% off sports, concerts, comedy, theater, so much more. I love Game Time. It was so good. to show up to the game, know where I'm going to be, know what the view is going to be. We were concerned where we were sitting, like, hey, is the foul pole going to be in the way? Nah, man, we were in section 103, and it was a great view and a great time, even though they lost. We'll talk about that. But Game Time is fantastic. They even have ticket purchasing coverage for you. They will cover your ticket. They're going to be flexible with you and their customer service policy if something happens with you. So everything about Game Time is so fantastic. You need to download their app right now and use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB to get $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKEDONMLB, $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed.
This is the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Every day, or if you haven't done so already, please check out Locked On Sports Today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every single day to bring you the biggest stories across the sports world. It brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, news, all the things you like about Locked On Angels, but about the wide world of sports and even coverage of your favorite teams that aren't the Angels. So find it on the free Amazon Fire TV channels app or on YouTube. It's there 24/7 for you, 365. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Speaking of your team every day, the Yankees are coming to town on Tuesday, 6:38 Pacific time. You can catch every pitch of the Angels' hometown broadcast on SiriusXM with the SXM app. Just search Angels.
Saturday night was the game that we went to, and the Angels lost 4-3. They went down 4-1 pretty early. I'm sorry, 4-0 pretty early.
Yeah.
And then had a great home run from Taylor Ward, which made it 4-3. But that was all of the scoring in the game. And it was the over-aggressiveness on the base paths and the missed opportunities with runners in scoring position that really messed things up for the Angels. So let me talk about base running first, John. It was the fourth inning. Nolan Shawnuel is on base. He walked, and then Rengifo singles down that left field line.
Mm-hmm.
He did that twice in that game, found a great spot. Shawnuel ends up at third, where he should have ended up.
Yes, 100%.
But Rengifo is hustling out of the batter's box and decides to try to get to second base. And, of course, they relay a throw in. They tag him out. He's out, kind of overslid the base. So that was frustrating. But then with one out, the Angels couldn't do anything with Shawnuel at third. Willie Calhoun struck out. Taylor Ward struck out. And it was so frustrating because they didn't make contact. All they needed was soft contact somewhere, or a sac fly would have been fantastic. And they made no contact and actually swung and swang at some really bad pitches. In fact, Ben, who was with us, he's a coach, and I think it was a 2-2 count to Taylor Ward, and he had thrown some fastballs in there, and then he said, This is gonna be a slider. He's gonna throw it off speed pitch, and he's gonna throw it low, and it's gonna probably hit the dirt, and Ward's gonna swing at it.
Right.
That's what happened.
That's exactly what happened.
We knew it was coming.
Yeah.
And it's so frustrating as a fan to say, I know what's coming, and yet it's coming, and you're still swinging over the top of that, and you're not moving runners over. You're not making contact. John, that run would have tied the game.
Right.
And it would have made it a completely different game, and it would have helped save Soriano from getting a loss in that game.
I think this goes back to what you're talking about, Mike. We're missing the key pieces of this lineup, and just the inability to manufacture runs is just so beyond this team that it's like dumbfounding to me. This has been a problem for years.
Yeah.
One of the people I follow on Twitter, his handle is "can't hit with runners in scoring position," and it's not a joke. It's something that's been happening for a very long time in Angels baseball. And how do they address it? And why hasn't it been addressed? I'm sure it's been addressed many times, but it just is so frustrating, especially when nerds like us can sit and watch the game and know what's going. Sorry, I'm not calling your friend Ben a nerd. I'm calling us nerds.
It's me. Yeah.
But we can watch this game and know exactly how it's going to go down. And it's just mind boggling to me. And
I want to point out something here. I know that often when we talk about like the Angels not coming through with runners in scoring position, it's their youth and they're learning how to win. And Wash has said that, right? But tell me what the problem then is with the Guardians, because they're hitting over 300 with runners in scoring position.
Right.
Like that was the most amazing thing to watch this weekend, especially being there on Saturday.
Yeah.
Was that they were making contact, and that contact was finding holes.
Yeah.
But when they made contact, it was always with runners on. It was always moving the runners over, and they were making good contact. So that those runners weren't just moving over; they were getting hits with runners in scoring position. And these guys don't have great batting averages, but when the runners are on, something shifts for the Guardians.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the secret sauce is for them. It's not just youth and inexperience and they're learning how to win, because the Angels have youth and inexperience and they're not doing well in that.
Yeah.
And like you said, this has not just been a this year, last year thing.
Yeah.
This has been a long time thing. Like
Right.
Mike Scioscia years, I remember, who struggles with runners in scoring position. It just feels like that narrative got louder once Scioscia left.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been resolved or fixed. And it just is mind-boggling as to how the Angels can't even make contact in those moments.
It's another situation of reading the room. Taylor Ward is up at the dish, and Nolan Schanuel is on third. Mike, do you think the guy is going to serve up something for Taylor Ward to hit to the outfield?
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
No.
Because the pitcher knows the situation. So as a hitter, Taylor Ward should also know the situation and realize that he's not going to get anything to hit in the zone. It might be at his knees, and he's going to have to golf club it and in order to get it out there. But when he struck out on the slider down below the zone, it's just so obvious to everybody. And I just don't understand how the Angels can't make the connection, and they continue to not make the connection. Speaking of Calhoun's, did you happen to catch Cole Calhoun at the game on Saturday night? Did you see him?
Yeah, so they did a celebrity lookalike cam.
Yeah.
And they went a picture of Cole Calhoun, and then they showed Cole and his family.
That's so funny.
So everybody around us was like, I think
Is that
that's
actually him?
I think it's him. So of course we're scrolling through Twitter. So Bally Sports posted it. Our friend Sister Swilly, Swilly Sports on Twitter, she posted it. Got to meet him, and so I was showing my friend and people around us. I'm like, no, it really is Cole Calhoun. Can he play? Can we put him? Can he hit with runners in scoring position?
He would have made contact. Absolutely. Mike, Jose Soriano got the start in this one. He went 6 innings. He did allow 4 hits and retired 10 of the last batters. 10 of the last 11 batters he faced.
Yeah.
This is his 4th start this season with at least 90 pitches. But in the 9th inning, the Angels got a leadoff single from O'Hoppe. Joe Adell struck out. Mickey Moniak flied out. Zach Neto struck out to end the game. The Angels made 3 outs on the bases in this game that were costly. They failed to bunt when it mattered and move runners over. They continued with the learning how to win narrative. And I don't have any impatience with that, but what happens and when does this happen? When does learning how to win turn into he's been optioned? What do you say?
Well, this is where I want to talk about the bunt for a moment, because Kyron Paris was asked to bunt in this game.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're watching on YouTube, you can see it. If you're not watching, I'll describe it. But like, he was literally he was poking.
Careful that mic.
Yeah. he's poking at the ball.
Yeah.
Right.
Stabbing at the ball.
And that's not how you bunt.
No.
You deaden the ball. You let the ball come to you. You don't reach for it. You don't move the bat. You let the ball come to you. Even nerds like me know that you let the ball come to you. And so I don't know if it's nerves, John. I don't know if it's inexperience, but those are the things that I would look at and go, oh yeah, we're optioning him because he's not understanding simple fundamental baseball. Now, the tension is this is the year to allow those guys to grow at the major league level. But if you don't see any improvements, if you don't see his awareness grow, Kyron Paris specifically, then I think that you have to say, listen, until you show me that you're aware of the situation on the base pass and at the plate, then I'm going to send you back down and then bring you back up when the timing is right. I think at this point, they're not going to send anybody down until some people start to get healthy, because I don't think they want to waste those options.
Yeah.
But the reality is that some of these guys just are not aware of what's happening situationally.
Yeah. And they're in a position where they can't option anybody, like you mentioned, because of all the injuries and whatnot.
Yeah.
I don't think Kyron Paris would be up if the Angels weren't so depleted in the infield, but that's just the situation that they're in right now.
Today's episode of Locked On Angels is brought to you by our new friends, SupplyHouse. You can order supplies from the website that's made for skilled trades. Find thousands of parts from hundreds of brands in just a couple of clicks at SupplyHouse.com. SupplyHouse.com gives you 24/7 access to a huge selection of plumbing, HVAC and electrical supplies. Plus, you get fast delivery from anywhere in the US. And if you need help with an order, get industry-leading after-sales service from their friendly and knowledgeable customer support team. You can talk to a real person anytime. They're there to help you. Plus, great news for plumbers, technicians, and contractors. Being a pro really has perks. Trade industry professionals can join their free Trade Master program and get free shipping and serious discounts on every single order.
I want to be part of the Trade Master program. I'm a Trade Master. How about that?
I wonder if that's better than being a Jedi Master. So over 100,000 pros have already become Trade Masters and a part of this program, and they're getting the results that they long for. So apply for your membership right now and get a competitive edge on everyone else on every order. SupplyHouse.com/TM. You can save money and save time when you order online. Order plumbing, HVAC, electrical supplies from SupplyHouse.com. Real people, real service.
Mike, before we get into game 3 on Sunday, the Angels lost that one 5-4. Again, it was a Guardians sweep of the Halos. We had some news come out before the game, and it was the most Angels thing I think I might have ever heard, and it was the injury that Miguel Sano has been dealing with, his knee injury. Well, his rehab was set back by a few days because he fell asleep and left the heating pad on his knee and burned his knee, Michael. Yeah. And it felt like, of course, only the Angels. And the best part was that I told this to my wife, Abby. I said, you're not going to believe this. Listen to the most Angel thing that happened just now. The news came out about Miguel Sano. And she said, he could have lied about that. He didn't have to tell the truth about that because that's way less embarrassing if you could lie about that. That was just the greatest response was, he didn't have to tell the truth. He could have lied and saved himself the embarrassment. So here we are waiting for a few more days for Miguel Sano to pick up his rehab. I did see Michael Stefanik getting some game time with the Bees and a successful bunt. Michael, I'd love to see Stefanik up with his team, and
he's got like reps. 6 or 7 hits and 11 at bats. Like that guy just needs to figure out how to hit. If he could just translate it to the major leagues, we'd be golden, right?
I wish that we could have had him off the bench for most of the season just to see what he could do. I'd be interested in that, but he's been hurt for a long time. Mike, 9 walks in the first 6 innings.
Unreal.
Was the major issue for the Halos in this game. Reed Detmers went 5 innings. It didn't look like he was going to make it through the 3rd, and then he had a very economical 4th and 5th, but he had 4 hits, 3 earned runs, not too shabby, even though he was struggling a whole bunch, 4 walks, but then 8 strikeouts. Mike, that's kind of reminds me of what's often happened with Reed Detmers and even the guys like Patrick Sandoval. Love the strikeouts, but it takes like 100 pitches to get 8 strikeouts, right? It's just so uneconomical that they're not efficient strikeouts, and it happens so much with guys like Detmers and Patrick Sandoval. This start, Detmers was talking about it, and he said there were a lot more positives this week than the last several weeks. He felt like his command had to be better, but other than that, he felt like he had good stuff. He said his slider was shaky every now and then, but the stuff felt good. I just have to command a little bit better. Detmers also said he's been working to increase the velocity on his slider, and he was using a more compact delivery. 2 things that stand out to me there and concern me. We've talked about his slider. A whole bunch.
I knew you were gonna talk about that because that I know is something that you've been beating that drum on Locked On Angels for the last year and a half.
Well, and it goes to show that the success that he's had in the past comes when he has a separation of speeds between his fastball and his off-speed stuff. And now here we are again, treating his slider like a cutter. And the more that velocity increases on his slider, there's less movement. And now I hear that he's working on a more compact delivery. That's fine. I'm glad that they're working on the mechanical changes, but that just goes to show me that there are mechanical issues at hand for Reed Detmers. And so those 2 things alarm me, but I understand it's a process. They're working through it, but it just feels like, man, we're doing this again. Are we really going through? We're gonna up the velo on your slider again, Reed, even though last year that came with a lot of problems. So I'm worried about this again.
Despite the pitching issues, Johnny, the Angels did have a chance to win this game, just like they had a chance to win Saturday's game, but they couldn't come through. They tied it with a blast from Matt Theis. They pitched it right where that B-button swing goes right through the strike zone, right? Yes. Which I love. He crushed that pitch. It was great to see him get off the schneid, right? He was 1 for 22 at that point. Oof. And then with 2 outs in the 8th inning, the Angels just started hitting. Sandoval, Rengifo, Ward, and Pilar had consecutive hits, and the Angels scored 2 runs. It made it 5-4. Rally Monkey was out. I had a friend who was at the game. His name is Peter. He's an everydayer. He's jumping up and down like a fool, jumping with a Rally Monkey. It was fantastic. But then Joe Adell struck out to end the inning, and then they didn't do anything in the 9th inning. John, these numbers are pretty amazing. Angels fell to 7-19 in games decided by 1 or 2 runs.
Wow.
Yes, absolutely. We have felt that, right? Most of them have been at home as well. They're 2-13 in those types of games at home, and they're 20-33 and 6-19 at home. And Wash said this: I feel good about the way we played against the Guardians. We had chances to win, and we just got to find ways to do it. John, do you feel good about how they played against the Guardians?
I mean, it's like everything that we've talked about over the course of this show, Mike. It's reading the room, recognizing the situation, and understanding what you're capable of versus what you're not so good at. Look, I appreciate that you put our notes together during the show or for the show, right? That's what you've subscribed to in this team effort that we call Locked On Angels. And me, I do the editing and the posting because that stuff is beyond you. And so we just realize, we both recognize here, hey, here's what Mike's good at, here's what John's good at. And sometimes I'll do notes if it requires like a deep dive or something, or I'll put Fan Mail Friday together. But I say that because it goes back to the Halos, recognizing the situation, reading the room, understanding that, a contact or a bunt is going to get Sandoval home from third and make it 4-4 in that Saturday night game, or, recognizing that, hey, the pitcher's not going to serve you up something you can hit to the outfield, Taylor Ward. You got to recognize that and pay attention to what he's doing. I go back to Sunday's game, and man, I see the note, Joe Adell struck out swinging to end the inning, to end the rally. Yeah. That guy has been going through it, and great. He got his 10th home run the other night in garbage time. And so that's frustrating as well, because he went from having a really productive season so far to backtracking, and same thing with Logan O'Hoppe. We just need these guys to come through. But I think the key ingredient and the missing piece is what you talked about. These guys are missing the centerpieces, the guys who are going to get things going for them. And those are the veterans. That's Trout and Rendon. And we should have known that Trout and Rendon were going to be hurt at some point this year. But I look around and I don't see any other veterans other than Kevin Pilar, who's been doing pretty good since he came over to the Angels.
Right.
But it's one thing to have this guy that you just picked up from the White Sox and took a flyer on, and it turned out pretty good. But it's another thing to be missing your centerpiece and be missing somebody like Mike Trout at the end of the day.
Hey, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. The Angels play the Yankees on Tuesday at 6:38 Pacific time, and you can catch every pitch of the Angels' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search Angels.
Hey, give us a follow on Twitter at Locked On Angels and at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram. Whether you're watching or listening to today's show, come on over to YouTube, find today's episode, hit that like button on the way down to the comment section. It helps put our show in front of other Angels fans who might not know about Locked On Angels, and you guys have been doing a great job of that, helping us out a whole bunch. Mike, what do we have on deck for tomorrow's show?
Well, I know it's the Yankees. They're playing really well. We're going to preview the Yankees. The Angels have always had a really good history in playing the Yanks and doing well. So can they do well against this Yankee team? We're going to get you ready for that series, and that's tomorrow on Locked On Angels.
Man, they are just tearing it up right now.
I know.
I'm real scared, Mike. But it's not anything we haven't handled or talked about before. So there you go. All right, friends. We hope you'll come back and join us for that. Until then, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
I'm just going to look to see when we're playing the AL West again. And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Thanks for being here with us, and we'll see you back here on Tuesday. Heavy sigh? Is that what you're going for?
Yeah.
Heavy sigh?